beginning of my video. Boom!
Welcome back to Boring Reviews.
Boring land.
Oh, just kidding.
Blasphemer!
Hello,
right.
Boring Review Nation!
Kind of pointless.
We know all things. It was over in a snap.
We really want it. Alright, we'll be nice.
Only you can be a Patreon.
Oh my gosh!
You don't need to follow the show to be hyped. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Boring Reviews. Nick here.
Gabe.
And, I'm so excited about this, Gabe. Why don't you tell them what we're doing today and why we're so excited to finally be able to do it?
Oh, man. URI surgical strike. You know what, dude? We've been waiting forever for this movie. Ever. We went on, no joke, Netflix wasn't there. And I mean, we went on Amazon where you could buy movies. And normally that's what we do. Couldn't find it there. We went on several different streaming. We even, Nick had signed us or did sign us up for Hotstar. Wasn't there. We're like, are you kidding me? And finally, through back channels, I cannot tell you how we got it because then somebody's going to kick in my door. Poof, FBI, something like that. All right. But we got a copy and we saw the film. Holy cow, bro. The first thing I was thinking was, the first 15 minutes of this movie, it is non-stop action. It is like, holy cow, just rise the entire first 15 minutes of the movie, and then it drops and slows down a little bit, and then we have the backstory. But they just capture you in that first 15 minutes of the movie. I'm going to let you do the synopsis because obviously you're better at that than I am. But man, URI surgical strike. We understand now why it's called URI surgical strike, and we just got to give you some background. So
let's. It was September of last year when we reacted to the trailer. Long time ago. It was one of our first Indian videos that we did, and it got us a whole lot of love early on. Brought us a whole lot of subscribers. And ever since we reacted to it, we're like, oh, we're gonna watch this. Definitely,
we gotta check it out. We gotta check it out. Right.
It's been 9 months now. We didn't get it as questionable as he's making it sound. He's got a little comedy there. But it was, Daniel and Gian once again who hooked us up with Dewar. They had lent us their copy, and so that we could see it, because like Gabe said, there was no platforms we were able to get here. So they were able to legally lend us their copy so that we can check it out. We got it. And we're so grateful to Daniel, Gian, and their people for hooking us up with that. Thank you so much once again. Daniel and Gian, they're pretty cool because we don't really know them on a personal basis, but they know that we wanted to see URI. They know we wanted to see Dewar from our community post. And, they have a big fan base. And so they got in touch with Daniel and Gian, and they were able to hook us up with these lenders. So thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for reaching out to us and hooking us up. So, URI. All right. So as fans of this movie and as, countrymen of India, a lot more about the history than we do. So we'll just give a very basic synopsis, but this is based on the true story, the true events that happened with the Indian Army. And it was really cool how they had said in text, like, we are the new Indian Army. We're not going to be messed with, so to speak. But we start off with an ambush in 2015 on the convoy of the Indian Army troops in Chandal. And we have this bus, and there is, the tires get flat. They get stranded there. They're trying to check on it, and then they just get ambushed by these terrorists. And in retaliation, Major Vahan Singh Shergill, played by Vicky Kaushal, who is the man. He's from Raman Raghav and many other things. He and his unit, including his brother-in-law, played by Mohit, Raina, they infiltrate and attack the northeastern militants that are responsible for the ambush. And like Gabe said, I mean, it was awesome action. And, not that they're killing people is awesome, but it was shot so amazingly. It was shot like first-person shooter, like you're playing a video game or something, and you're going in there and you're doing this, you're reloading, you're looking around, you run out of bullets, you're going after someone. It was so amazingly shot, and it was that right there. If I'm at the movie theater and I paid $12 for my ticket, that right there is enough for my price of admission, because that was just fantastic. The action in this movie is, second to none. It's fantastic. And so they go in there and they get that retaliation. And then the movie goes on, and the movie goes on. It kind of slows down a little bit, but I was telling Gabe, I was texting when I was watching, I was like, this movie is so much like a Hollywood film. And that's not an insult, but in the way that you get some action to start off with, and then it slows down, it focuses on the characters, and you get some music infused, and you get to find out more about these characters and their families. We get to know about his niece, who was played by a really cute young actress who did a great job. She was very endearing. We meet his sister, who's married to his brother-in-law, and his mom, who's got dementia of some kind, so she needs some help. And he wants to kind of take a step back from this high-stress military unit in the Indian Army that he's really good at leading, so that he can stay home and be with his mom, who's going through dementia. They get her a nurse. They get these things taken care of. I thought it was really cool how he talked to one of his supervising, the Minister of Defense, basically, and said, hey, these are my wishes. And the guy's like, no problem. We'll take care of you, and we'll get you a nurse so that your mom's taken care of. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, well, remember, he was going to retire because his mother had Alzheimer's, and they were like, whoa, we can't have you retire. You're so important to the military. What can we do? Well, we can put you on a desk closer to home so you can be with your mom, and we're going to give you a full-time aide or nurse for your mom. So that's how he ended up getting a full-time nurse for his mom. But he was going to retire, and you feel for him because while he wants to defend his mother, his country, his mother needs him. And that's a great thing to do, when our elders, and especially right now, when you're thinking about COVID-19, especially it's attacking elderly. I call my mom like every day, hey, do you need me to go get anything? So my brothers and I do as well. But not to go too off the rails, they birthed you, okay? They raised you. Everything you are, you owe to them. So in their time of need, don't abandon them. And I'm glad that they put that little that little how should I say scene there to let you know how much this guy loves his mom and that he's a good family man. But at the same time, like the general of the country says, listen, you have your mother, but India is mother too. So we need you, okay? And they do what they got to do. So they put him in an office. He's bored out of his mind working at the office. He meets this other person at the office, a female who's working, and he sees she has some skills. He sees her at the firing range. She's amazing. He goes up to her and he says, why are you here? Like, you don't belong here. You can see you belong in the field. And she tells him the story about how unfortunately, against orders, she went on. She was a helicopter pilot on a rogue mission to save some people who were stranded. Because if she had waited till morning to when things were quote unquote safe, they would have died. So while they were under investigation, they basically clipped her wings and put her on the desk. But that's just giving some background information of the other people. So in any event, the nurse gets distracted. The nurse that they sent to watch his mom, and his mom, who has Alzheimer's, escapes the house and disappears. And he comes home and he freaks out. Where's my mom? Where's my mom? You could see the passion he has. And he's like, you're an incompetent nurse. Like, he gets really nasty with her. So he tells her right away. And this is how this guy's sharp. He's like, okay, call your people right now. He knows she's not a real nurse, is what I'm kind of trying to get at. And I'm like, myself, like, what is he even talking about?
I know. I was talking about that too. I like this guy's paranoid.
Yeah, and he's like, call them now. I want my mother found now. Call your superiors. So then she busts out there and starts talking all technical, like she's in the military giving codes. So it's like, oh, wow, he's right. She is an operative or whatever. So she's like, I may be an incompetent nurse, but I'm a great agent. She had put like a homing device or a tracking beacon on his mom, and they ended up finding his mom, bringing her back home. After that, he apologizes to her, but she says, if I was in your position, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah, and that thing was cool because he starts off by saying, what's your real name? I know it's not Jasmine. What's your real name? And then that's where I'm like, what's going on? I will say, going back to that flight lieutenant that you had mentioned, I thought that was really awkward the way they introduced her. It felt like they didn't have a way of having her and Vicky Kaushal's character meet up so they can eventually use that character later on in the film to do what she needed to do. At first, he seemed kind of like a stalker, like a creeper. He's just staring at her like he was really into her or something. It was kind of weird and awkward, but eventually they were able to get over that awkwardness, and they're able to form that connection so that we can use that character, not use her, but have that character later on in the movie to do what she needs to do. But he's away from his unit. His brother-in-law is rocking it. He comes home. Him and his wife conceive a second child. They're super excited. Birthday party, the whole 9 yards. I really like the relationship between the brother and the sister, Vicky Kaushal and his sister. I thought that was super cool. I love the relationship between Vicky Kaushal and Karan, his brother-in-law. I thought that was super cool. There's so much in this movie, and it makes sense when you're done watching it. Like, okay, this is following a few events in history, catastrophic things that happened to the Indian Army, but following a few things that happened. How are we going to fill it in? And there's so much temptation to bog down and slow down the preparation for the missions. They didn't go that route. They went the human route. They went the family man route. And for me, it really, really worked, with the exception of the awkwardness of how he met up with that lieutenant, the flight lieutenant. Everything else for me really worked on the buildup. And I texted you too. I was like, I hope this isn't a spoiler. This is the first 30 minutes, but I think they're going to show that the brother-in-law is going to end up dying from some kind of attack, and that's how Vicky Kaushal is going to get back in the game. And unfortunately, with that attack on Yuri, September 18, 2016, at Yuri, Jammu and Kashmir, at the headquarters at Yuri, at dawn, there were these 4 heavily armed militants. They attack Yuri and they kill 19 soldiers. And it was hardcore. It's kind of hard to watch because they're throwing these bombs inside of these tent bunker, the barracks, and they're just going after it. They're fully committed to their cause, but it's an evil cause, and they're going after, and they're just attacking these soldiers. And the brother-in-law, everyone else is kind of taking it back, staying safe, fighting and shooting back. Eventually we'll get these guys, but he wasn't willing to wait. He had to go after and protect his guys. And so he takes a more extreme, bold measure, and he's able to save the day and get that one militant that wasn't going down, but it cost him his life. And there was a bomb or something like that guy set off, right? That he
they were attached. He had 2 grenades that were attached to his gun. So when he died and they took his gun from him, the grenades went off. And the worst part about it is, normally with death, you don't have time to think about it. And I only say that from watching other films and stuff like that. But if it's an instant thing, you don't know what's coming. You don't know what's happening. With a grenade, it takes about 6 seconds. So when he took the gun, he saw those pins pull off. He had time to process. Oh boy, you know what I mean? I can't even imagine the dread right there. But and you were doing a great job. I just was like,
no, you're good.
That was just such a cringe-worthy scene. Like, could you imagine?
It was tough, and I felt like it was coming. I don't know if it was in the trailer. It was tough to watch, but it makes all the sense to have a reason why Vicky Kaushal, besides just, like you said, mother and country, to get back in the game and get some retaliation. And so you have that horrible event, and it's based on the real thing that happened. As far as we know, you have that horrible, tragic event where, it's one thing to attack a military base, which is as horrible in nature. It's happened here in the States a few times. It's another thing when they don't even have a chance to defend themselves. I mean, it's not like it's wartime or a battle time. It's a surprise attack. You're taking out these soldiers. I mean, it's unsettling. And even as a viewer of a film that's based on that event, it's something it's hard to watch. And that was definitely hard to watch. Definitely hard to watch the brother-in-law. I really liked the other character that was part of their little group. What was his name? He was awesome. So, that scene is hard to watch with the attack. And then you have the aftermath, and you have these military funerals. And there's that tough to watch, but also very inspiring scene where they're at the funeral of Karan, the brother-in-law. And, the daughter earlier in the movie, she had mentioned to her uncle, played by Vicky Kaushal, that she knew the chant, that she knew the war cry in his group. And he was like, oh yeah, really? What is it? And so she's saying, he's like, no, you got to have a little more, a little more gusto when you're saying it. You got to really, command these men's attention when you're saying it. And so she walks up to the coffin with, the flag there and everything, and the whole 9 yards for her father that just passed away. And she starts off with that chant. And it was so awesome because all the soldiers around, they fell in a line as if she was their commanding officer, and they finished the chant with her. And she did a great job, just like her uncle had taught her to do earlier. And that was a really cool scene. It was a really powerful scene. And it was a huge risk to take with a child actor to do something that powerful, but it totally paid off because it really, really brought in home what those soldiers are feeling, where this is one of our brothers. This is one of our people. This is one of us that went down, and we're not ever going to forget it. That was powerful.
And it was so tough because, it was, she's a child, but she's already immersed in this war, in this world. Okay. And her dad being a military man, obviously they knew that he, was at risk, just like her uncle was. But doesn't change the fact that when you do lose a loved one, it's gonna hurt. And that was a very emotional scene. I definitely welled up during that scene. She did an amazing job. After the scene, of course, now this is Vicky Kaushal's motivation now to go back. Okay, he wants in because he knows there's going to be some type of response. So it's funny, or not funny, but I should say how politics plays a role in everything, because they go back into that big boardroom, right? Where you've got the generals, you've got, I'm assuming it's the Secretary of Defense, the Minister of Defense, whoever, and they're all in there looking at what are our options? What are our options? What do we do here? We can't, it can't be a full-scale war, but this is a new India. We can't just, you know what I'm saying? Let this go unchecked because it's going to provoke more attacks.
Which is a huge risk, politically. It's a huge risk because you open the door to other retaliations as well. But you're right. That was a gut check time, and that was a situation where that's a huge call to make. But the guy said, "I'm making the call. This is what we're gonna do. I need you. These are your tasks." I mean, that was crazy.
And I think it was the character, I want to say it was Paresh Rawal, who plays Godiva. He was like, okay, it's going to be a surgical strike. So it's like, that's where they get the name surgical strike. We're going to go in there, hit these 4 terrorist camps that are state funded but that they cannot protect. So we're going to go in there. We're going to go and hit these camps, and we're going to get out. But we will not lose one soldier. And I'm like, what? They're like, not lose one soldier. That's a heavy task to ask. But then that's when they bring in Vicky Kaushal, because he's great at planning and he figures out how to get it done. So as the planning stage moves forward, they need more intel. They need more intel to make this thing precision, to make it surgical, to make sure it goes efficiently. They need to know how many people are in there in these camps, and they need better surveillance. They can't get better surveillance. They can't get any closer. And then it's some geek that, is not a warrior. He's probably never shot a gun in his life, never went through military training, but he makes a drone that looks like a bird. And the minister walks by. He's like, what is this? And he's like, oh, it's a drone, it's made to look like a bird. It can hover, can do this. He says, you may just have won this war for us. Like, you know what I mean?
And then his superior, who's like, oh, he's just wasting time. Don't worry about him. His superior is like, dude, you're making me look bad.
Right.
That part was awesome. But the other thing about them planning the surgical strike, you may have mentioned, I might have missed it, but they're planning this across the border in Pakistan. So it makes it even more difficult. It's not like these terrorists have these camps inside their own country and we're going to sneak up on them. No, they have to go to this other place and this, Pakistan, and attack these people where they're at. And that whole bird thing, like I didn't see that coming, but the bird thing was pretty cool, man. I mean, that thing looked pretty real.
It did. And, I didn't mention, yes, they have to cross the border to get into Pakistan and carry out the surgical strike, which makes it even more dangerous. So they get the intel they need. At one point, there's this moment of suspense, though, because the bird gets hit, and when it gets hit, it goes down. If somebody sees it, it's all over. Somebody's going to know what's going on. But one of the kids that is actually at the camp picks up the bird, and luckily it's up in the air, so it's able to get away. And the plan is still safe. So moving forward, they need to find more information out. We come to the day before D-Day, and they've got a mole inside of the Pakistan intelligence, where it's this one general who is friends with one of their agents or whatnot. But, when he gets drunk or drugged, he, spills the beans, basically. And he doesn't even know who the rat is. I'm at a
husband and wife, middle-aged couple. How rock star was that? Especially the wife. I mean, she did not skip a beat. Let's go. He's passed out. Let's get the information. Hey, wake up. I mean, that was awesome.
And then he reveals that Pakistan knows that something is coming, because they saw one of their helicopters painted that way. So they were going to blow up any helicopter that came into their range that was not authorized. So like at the 10th hour, the 11th hour, basically, all the other helicopters have deployed. They have to pull back Vicky Kaushal's. And Vicky Kaushal's like, that's okay. We'll go through the ground, because they had heard about the terrorist by another terrorist that they caught these caves that they use to get in and out. So they go through the caves. Here comes the bird drone again to the rescue. It's their eyes, so it's flying ahead of them, giving them a bird's eye view, so to speak, of what's ahead of them. That's how they're able to go in undetected, make it into the country, make it to their target. And again, the action scenes are absolutely amazing, man. I mean, wow, dude. It is definitely up there with one of the movies we just recently saw with Chris Hemsworth. What was that?
Extraction.
It was Extraction. Okay, it was that level of action, that level of precision with the shooting, and Vicky Kaushal. You know, I haven't actually seen him as an action star, but in this one, he definitely pulled it off.
Oh yeah, he definitely pulled it off. He plays a completely different character than he did in Ramin Rogov 2.0. Completely different. Even though it's the same guy, it's hard to believe. He was awesome in both. A few things there. They bring in, you probably mentioned it too, but I might have missed it. The flight lieutenant that he had met with earlier at his desk job. She's flying one of the helicopter vehicles. And the Jasmine lady, she's actually working with the Minister of Defense, and she's getting all the intel, so she's playing a big role. Vicky Kaushal apologizes to her, and they're working together. He comes back into the game because he's like, I can't do anything. I can't think of anything else but do this. And at that point, he's off of this task force, and the guy who is in charge of him trusts him so much, and he's like, yes, you're going to take the lead. You're going to take the reins. They're your group again. Let's get this done. They find those two guys, Pakistani guys, I'm assuming. And, they got the tea thrown on his face to try to get that information. We see those awesome lines where you got the Jasmine girl, she's the interrogation scene, and she's not pulling any punches, talking about like busting his balls or something like that. I can't remember. But I mean, that whole, everything they can get in the last minute, like you said, the 11th hour to get the information. But when we have those action scenes, again, it's like a video game, first person shooter, where you're just going around and go around and react. Is this a civilian or not? React. And everyone's got to do their job. They have them broken off into 4 different groups. They're all breaking off, doing their whole thing. And again, we could have spent an hour following each group and every detail, and that would have dragged on and not been as interesting. We didn't get that. We got about 20-25 minutes of nothing but awesome action, really well choreographed, hand-to-hand combat, sniper shots, different things. When I was playing first-person shooter as a kid, I don't really play much anymore, but when I was younger playing that, I always hated the snipers, the campers who would just sit there, and they were really good with their accuracy, and they would just take you out. I'm like, I got all my stuff right now. You took me out. But in the military, I can't imagine how valuable those guys are. Everyone's in place. These action scenes, it's like they hired military people, soldiers, to play these actors and play these roles. And maybe they did in some of the roles because everything just looked on point. The dedication from Vicky Kaushal, you can see it where he is that leader of that task force, of that group of the Indian Army. I mean, everything, they spared no expense, so to say, to get these action scenes the way they were. And you're able to see, the good prevail. You're able to see retribution go out there. You're able to see them succeed in their mission and go back to the caves. And I want to say those might have been the same caves that are featured in Bajraji Bhaijaan, the film with Salman Khan, when he's sneaking into Pakistan to get that girl back to where she's supposed to be. I don't know if it's the same caves, or maybe there's a lot of caves, but I thought that was really interesting. But this movie, the action is fantastic. Some of the narrative decisions were kind of odd for me, but for the most part, everything was great. The acting was fantastic. These characters that you're supposed to like are very likable. And the mission to see it unfold was awesome. And I can only imagine that the other countries that maybe were thinking about, I won't say that's too political, but it's just, this movie was just fantastic for me.
Sarit, who's the pilot, she shows her mettle where not only does she save him because she's able to pull out at the last minute when she gets the word, no, they know you guys are coming. So she pulls the chopper away so Vicky Kaushal doesn't get killed along with the rest of his soldiers. But then later on, when they're leaving in the extraction, when they're getting out of there and their escape, they're brought down because there's another helicopter, Pakistani helicopter, who's tied them down. And she comes with the helicopter, and man, She blasts that other helicopter. They got to get out of there, gives them cover. I mean, she shows her mettle, and her whole storyline, which they give it to us, was that her husband used to also be in the military, and he was martyred as well. So she just wanted to make him proud, and this was her moment to make him proud. The one odd thing or odd choice, it seemed like they were trying to set her up to be the love interest, but that never, their relationship seemed, it didn't seem platonic. You know what I mean? It didn't seem, I don't know what to say. But then
I agree.
She was married already, so maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was just more of a superior, and because he would be her superior, obviously. But that relationship was just not organic. I know I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it felt like they were trying to set her up as a love interest, and that never fully fleshed out. You know what I'm saying?
I completely agree. And it goes back to my point I had made earlier where it was just awkward the way they made these two people meet, because where he's working at his desk job, there's a bunch of people in there. Why would he look at this one in particular if it wasn't for a love interest reason, which is fine. Maybe, they give us a little information where he was, romantically involved with her, but it didn't work out because she was still mourning her husband, and he realized, and then they became a friend. It was just very, very weird, very awkward. Nothing came of it. There was way more chemistry between him and the Jasmine girl than there was with the pilot lady. But the pilot lady was awesome, played by a great actress, did a great job. But I agree with you. That whole connection with those two characters was just very, very awkward.
It was Kariti Kulari. Sorry, Kariti Kulari. Yeah, she did a fabulous job. Again, ultimately, mission accomplished, right? They go in there, they take out these 4 terrorist camps. No, not one soldier. They don't lose one soldier. Now, that was one thing I was like, wow, this is based on a true story. Did they really go in and not lose one soldier? If they did, that's amazing. And, even one soldier is one soldier too many. I come from a military family. And again, it's one of those things where you're defending your country. You know what I mean? Politics aside, whether you're a Republican, Democrat in this country, I always respect every single military person, retired or currently enrolled. And I thank them for their service to the country, because it's not just them. Their families are also serving the country, because even if it doesn't cost them their life, they're away from their families so often that it does take an adverse impact in their lives. You know what I mean? You miss a lot of time. But man, I love this film. Like I said, the action scenes is probably what puts it over the top to me. I'm ready to grade it. What about you, Nick?
Oh, you know it, man. You know it. You want to go first?
Absolutely. I will say that URI Surgical Strike did not let me down, so I'm going to give it a solid A. Solid A. It's not an A plus. Like I said, there was a few missteps. Again, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but you're right. If it wasn't that was a love interest, then what was all that weird stalking thing earlier? Like, he literally followed her around the places. So then why didn't you fully flush that out? I think you missed that or forgot that part of it. But outside of that, you know what I mean? The action is great. So, excuse me, the story is great. Vicky Kaushal, I remember when I saw Ramen Ragma 2.0, I told you, like, bro, this guy held his own. Like, even though I you know me, I'm a Nawaz fan, and Nawaz Siddiqui, to me, he's amazing. But dude, Vicky Kaushal is amazing, dude. He held his own, and I mean, again, in this movie, he shows his acting chops. What he gained for this role? What would you say? 20, 30 pounds easy? Because he was yoked in this movie compared to Raman Rava 2.0. So, man, this guy can act, and I'm excited to see more of his work.
Yeah, I mean, all I got to say about him is Vicki, please. But I mean, this guy, he's not in that movie, but I just like that line. This guy is unbelievable. I'm right there with you. A solid A for me as well. There, like I said, that whole thing with the pilot was kind of weird, and there was a few other parts that kind of like took me in and out of it a little bit. But for the most part, I loved it all. Liked all the characters. I liked his friend as well. We didn't really get to talk about him too much, but the friend that was friends with him and his brother-in-law, he did a great job wanting to get back and get some retribution. That was awesome. Everything was great in this film. And it's tough because this is based on a true story, based on something I can only imagine is still a sensitive subject for all of India. And they did it in a very respectful way. They did it in a way that showed respect to those men and women that really went through with it. And, it reminds me of Zero Dark 30, the movie based on the surgical strike on Osama bin Laden that America did. It's tough with those films that bring you back to a time where a terrorist attack happened. but at the same time, it gives you a chance to have almost closure in a little way of that situation. So this movie was fantastic. Like I said, it's been 8 or 9 months of us waiting to be able to watch it. I'm glad we finally watched it. I feel like we achieved something glorious, and we're grateful to Daniel and Gian for hooking us up with that. And we hope that you check out their channel. We hope you stay checking out our channel. Look for our reviews and reactions every single day. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time.
We know all things.